What are fair expectations for the Browns this season, 2020? As you look at it, I know you've talked about this podcasts and the like. What are your expectations? What do you think is fair to expect from the Browns?
I know this is a low bar, but how about just a winning record? Get to 9-7, and I think in these expanded playoffs, 9-7 should maybe get you at least that last wild card spot. We'll see how that all shakes out, but 8-8 or 9-7 should get you into the playoffs if they're letting 7 teams in. So I think get to a winning record, 9-7. 10-6 would be great, of course. But get to that bar first. That this is a team that should have been in that 8-8, 9-7 range last year. So I don't think that's really skipping steps to expect them to be in that range this year. Win some games you're supposed to win, steal some maybe you aren't, and get yourself in a position where you're going to be playing on wild card weekend. I don't think that's an unfair expectation, even with this weird offseason.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, I know there's challenges, but there's challenges for everybody. The older teams. Browns are a young team. Challenge for the older teams is if your guys that are, in their 30s didn't put in the work and now you're going to put them in a shortened preseason, that's going to be a challenge for some of the veteran teams. Can they stay healthy without going through the rigors of a normal offseason? I think it's fair to expect this to be a playoff team. I'm not saying they're going to win the division, but I would agree. I think wild card playoff team is very fair. And if they don't get it, and they don't win, 8 or 9 games, I think it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and look, when you look in the division, I'm not going to pick somebody else outside of Baltimore to win the division, but you just never know how things can play out. But between Pittsburgh and the Browns, I could see the Browns leaping Pittsburgh and getting to second. I think the Steelers have a really good defense. We'll see what Ben Roethlisberger is coming off of that injury last year. But there is a world where the Browns can leap the Steelers and finish second in the division and maybe make things interesting with the Ravens if Baltimore does, in fact, take a step back a year after winning 13 games. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how those 3 teams kind of jostle. And those division games at the end of the year should be interesting.
What do you think is a key for the Browns to meet or exceed expectations? If there was an area that you said, boy, if this happens, they should be in pretty good shape. The area may be of biggest question.
I think there's a few. I mean, look, the obvious one is your quarterback, but I'll go on the defensive side of the ball. Defense is generally the biggest question mark on this team. And if they're able to generate a pass rush and really get after quarterbacks and force a bunch of turnovers, that's really where things change for this football team. Now you go from being a team that can tread water here and there and get to 8-8 and 9-7. If you have a dominant defense that gets after quarterbacks and causes problems, that's when you start talking, getting to 10 wins, maybe not just getting the last wild card, maybe getting, the 5th seed or something like that. That's when you can really make a jump.